want to keep, yeah, we could do the retaining wall,
No.
but keep a guardrail.
There's 2 trucks
Yeah.
sitting in the parking lot. So
And we'd have to do an outward
fire
shutdown.
station.
Okay, guys.
Okay,
Yeah.
welcome. Congratulations, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for coming today. This is a special meeting of the Board of Selectmen. We have Kathy Devlin, Selectman. We have Jonathan Corolla, Transportation Engineer from the Department of Transportation. And we have Mike Churpak, the Project Manager for the State Highway Design. Jeff Board, our Town Engineer, and Todd Rowland, our Department of Public Works Director. Thank you, Mike and John, for being here. The Route 190-83 corridor study was done in 2003, but nothing has been done since then. Traffic has increased significantly, and coupled with our plans for controlled economic development, this intersection is becoming more problematic and retarding future development. The purpose of this meeting is to explore options for moving forward. For example, cost, funding, the Woodward House, which is the Gold House on the corner, and the possibility of the town acquiring it to remove this as an impediment for moving forward. We're interested in what you gentlemen have to say and propose, and the possibility of moving this project forward and lobbying for the necessary funding to make it a reality. So, it's up to you. Tell us what you think about this particular problem we have here, and let's discuss some options and some timetable, if possible. Okay? If I recall, there were 3 proposals that were submitted in this 2003 study. And we have Jeff Ford here, who's our town engineer, and he has some opinions and recommendations, as Todd has also.
I like the roundabout.
I do too.
So
You
do
like
I.
the roundabout, Mike?
I'll defer to John on that. So just to kind of introduce ourselves. So again, my name is Mike Churpak from the Highway Design Office. I kind of became a little bit involved in this project through a connection with town engineer, Mr. Board. So that's where as a contact at the department. So what I do in my office is we end up getting the design from a unit like John's. John's unit does the project development unit. They work on concepts from that come out of maybe the town proposing something like this, or a regional plan, or we get an inquiry as to a problematic area. And so his unit would be the investigative unit to look to see, what's been studied in the past, what should be done in the future. And so once his unit kind of says, yep, this is an area we want to propose a project, there's some back channel stuff that happens with that, and then eventually we come to my office for implementation of the project's concept, right? We get into more detailed design where he's more concept level. So that's the kind of outline what John and I do in respective roles. But John, do you want to talk about the different options that were there, and then what we see as the problems, and then we can kind of move forward?
Yeah, so I might be jumping around a little bit. I took a look at this in the past couple of days, and I only really saw, I don't know where report it had. It was only a couple of years old. I saw the realignment, and I kind of went down that route, just very, very briefly seeing the pros and cons of that. I did see a traffic circle. I didn't really dive down into that one to see. I know that there's it really depends on traffic. There is room. It all depends on that property that is on the corner, the historic property. So just some background, there's currently a signal being upgraded at that intersection.
Right. That's the Woodward House. I've done some preliminary investigation.
Okay.
Due to safety and traffic concerns, I think we have the option of acquiring that property by eminent domain, and that would involve a fair market price, obviously. And that's something we're exploring, because my understanding after digesting this 2003 study, that seemed to be an impediment as to moving forward.
Yes.
But if we could remove that impediment, then I think we could take a look at options.
Yes, so that would be
Okay,
like
John.
one of the biggest hurdles.
Right.
Right.
Every option seemed to, kind of go into that property.
Can we
And-
make the assumption that we'll take care of that from the standpoint of acquiring that property and or by eminent domain, removing that obstacles I mentioned, so that we can discuss
The options.
options going forward then?
Sure. So I guess just to reiterate, these are very preliminary, like not even like drawn fully.
Right.
But I did look into. I can't say too much about the traffic circle. I didn't draw it out. I didn't run templates to see if trucks can properly maneuver it, or simulations to see what the traffic backup would be like on each leg. I did run it for the realignment of the south leg, and it decreases the queues significantly, and it just allows for just safer maneuver through the intersection.
And normalizes it as well. Everything kind of hinges on if we remove the building, then we have a lot of different viable options that really would improve safety out here. It would improve mobility, and it would just kind of, take care of some of the issues that the town is seeing too, in terms of being able to, assuming develop that property. I saw that it's for sale.
Right.
Assuming that's something that's interested in economic development, was something you mentioned in your email.
But the irony about that, Mike, is even if that property was sold and we didn't take it by eminent domain, the problem still exists with that intersection.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Which then, as far as I'm concerned, would limit the options in terms of whoever purchased that
Exactly.
property, in terms of setbacks and what he can do with it.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. I would totally agree. And so that opens up our options. And so at that point, we would most definitely evaluate the realignment would be the first thing we look at. But almost certainly on almost a lot of the intersection jobs that we're doing, and you can talk to this better than I can, but we're looking at roundabouts a lot as
Yeah.
Yes.
potential
Right.
It would definitely be looked
improvements
into.
over a signal.
I'd like to add to that. Number one, in terms of the traffic, just this morning at 5 minutes to 9, coming up from the south to the light, there were cars trying to go left. We waited for 2 lights and 13 cars to come from 83 north
Yeah.
and pass by. They seem to have the right of way, and that could be extremely dangerous.
Yes.
And the second thing is, I really am in favor of the turnabout or rotary.
Roundabout.
I think it works really well in South Windsor. I've seen it on Hebron Avenue in Glastonbury.
Yeah.
It does control traffic. It controls speed, and that's the safety issue that I would like to go for.
The other issue is when I digested this analysis. In fact, since I've become first selectman, I find a lot of these studies that we spend a lot of money for, whether it's zoning or planning or this kind of thing, they sit on the shelf and nobody does anything about it. So that's the whole purpose of this meeting. But this study indicated that traffic was projected to increase significantly over the
It
next
did.
4 to 5 years. Now, it's been 16 years since the study was done. I don't know if there's been a recent traffic analysis, but I can tell you, I live right here with Kathy. You can't get through this place.
No, you don't live with me.
Same neighborhood, same neighborhood.
Sorry. Even though my name's Bud and her husband's name Bud, but there's no.
We live on the same street.
So the point I'm trying to make is that, and I've been dealing with potential investors and developers, and they all cite this particular intersection. But, that's an opportunity, but more importantly, I'm talking about a safety issue. And so, again, I'm going to pursue it aggressively about removing that obstacle with that gold building, going through all the procedures and et cetera, but again, assuming that's been done, then the recommendation, well, you indicated, John, that you prefer the straight alignment, you prefer the traffic circle. I don't know.
Yeah, we have to look at all options, both
Yeah,
options.
we would explore all options.
Okay.
Right,
It's
and
not.
then so we'd explore the options, and then more than likely what we would do is we would choose a recommended alternative based on all the data, and then we bring it to the public first we bring it to the town, right?
Right.
We want the town's back before we did anything
Okay.
design, right? So it would be us, the town, as a partnership, so to speak, and then we would take it to the public, and we we would pitch our recommendation, and we would let everybody know all options, get feedback. Roundabouts traditionally are tougher sells, so to speak. The public doesn't,
They
they're
don't
not
like
as
them.
well educated, so we do a little bit more of a robust educational process in that meeting to make sure that everyone's up to speed if that is the preferred alternative, because we believe we know what we're doing. So we try to sell that preferred alternative and educate the public as best we can.
Oh, excellent.
I think people are getting used to the roundabouts with the five-corner intersection down in Ellington.
Especially in this area with the Ellington.
Well,
I think
Stafford
people
too.
have seen.
I go
Right.
through it every
Stafford's
morning.
gonna get
Stafford's
two.
doing it,
And I like it.
Stafford's getting the one at the old diner.
Yeah.
That one's going to go to construction, I think, in the spring. And then the one that's there now, the circle there, is going to
Yeah.
get kind of cleaned up a little
Right.
bit.
Oh,
Make it a
okay.
little bit easier to use.
Yeah, so more defined.
monument,
we'll call it.
yeah.
Right. The monument's still going to be there,
Oh,
but
it will?
there's still it's
It's kind of a
just gonna be
free-for-all
little
now.
bit. It is a little bit of a free for all, so it's a little more controlled, a little more normalized.
Right.
But I want to refer and back up what Kathy said, because I'm familiar with those two new roundabouts in Glastonbury still living
Yeah.
Right.
That's an amazing development, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I've seen the difference. I guess you guys were involved in that.
Yep. That was that was part. I wasn't personally involved, but I know our unit was a little bit involved on the review because we had our former principal engineer was what we call a roundabout guru. So he did a lot of work with roundabouts, so he was definitely involved in that. But I've been through there, and it works really well.
Well, I do acknowledge that you guys are the experts on this, so you will come back and let us know specifically what you would recommend are these three options then, right? Making an assumption that we'll eliminate the coal house if that's the case.
Sure. So the first step would be we would have to propose a project to be initiated, and so
How's that happen?
so that kind of comes from discussions with us, right? How interested is the town in something? How hard are they pushing? How bad is the problem out there? Is there a crash data to support a safety improvement project? Is there congestion data to support a congestion mitigation type project? Is there a whole variety of different things? Is a town looking for what's a town looking for? And part of my purpose of being here today is to kind of listen to you. What's the vision for the area? I'm hearing improvements necessary. I'm hearing economic development interests. I'm hearing safety and congestion relief. I'm hearing all these things, but I just want to make sure that we understand the vision of the town and that we're on the same page with what we feel is a viable and
So you
reasonable
would start that process?
So what we would do is assuming we're on the same page, still looking to listen a little bit more for you. We could propose a project to be initiated. So what that does is that would send up a general scope of a project to our managers, the management team who are working on developing the capital plan. So the project would then kind of compete with all other projects in the state on a needs basis, right? Am I getting this right?
Yeah, so the proposed project is something that relatively easy can be started. You guys already took the first step in coming up with some preliminary ideas. We slightly further develop those ideas, get some costs estimated with it, like rights of way cost, and what the benefits of the design is, and then kind of weigh it out against other locations, and just kind of come up with a better, more defined scope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something that we could internally say, like, here, we have this,
Mhm.
what do you guys think? So that's relatively easy to do. That doesn't guarantee you a project, but it is the next step.
Okay.
Right. So
Yeah, I have a question about that. I understand funding is limited. We're on a bonding diet. We have a push to get our economic house, financial house in order in the state. But how do we compete as a little town in Summers
Right.
with all these other major projects, especially in the big cities,
Right.
okay, with limited funds? So I guess what I'm hearing from you gentlemen is that we have to come up with a cogent, aggressive story that justifies what we want to do here. Is that correct?
Yes, I would agree with that, but I think that there is fairness. There's certain pots of money that are set aside for certain areas of the
Yes.
of the state, right? There's they're all set up differently, where you have certain pots of money that are set up just for pedestrian improvements, and certain ones for safety, and certain ones for congestion, and certain ones for roads that are on the national highway system, right? So they're all set up different. So what we would need to do is kind of have a solid project to push up the chain, and then that project would get identified to fall with which bin of money does it fall in.
Okay.
And then where on the list of, we're trying to do a more asset-based approach to our capital plan, and we're trying to have a little bit more priority to our capital plan, like how much return on investment can the state, or in this instance, especially the town, reap from the benefits of a project. One of the things that we talked about on Monday when we were talking about this project with John's supervisor was, if we complete this project, would we ever have to come out here again in the foreseeable future? Something like this, in my opinion, it looks like no, we wouldn't have to come back. We would do it once, get in, get out.
Right.
The area is done for
Decades.
as long as we're around. Assuming the projections are
A
right.
couple other comments since we have this wide-ranging discussion. Again, I thank both you gentlemen for being here to start this process. Is North Central Connecticut has been ill-served, as far as I'm concerned, in this state. We're kind of like the stepchild. We don't seem to get acknowledgement. I'm pushing for a gas line in here. It's the only part of the state that's not served by gas. I'm pushing for safety and traffic and relief here. I'm pushing for economic development. All stimulates jobs. I think this is a key point. If you can
Right.
sell it on the basis of jobs and people moving into this
And
town.
establishments.
Yeah, and that's kind of our vision. I don't want to speak for you, Kathy, but
No, but I have something to say about that. I've been on this Board of Selectmen, I think, 19 years. And it started 19 years ago. I know the man's first name was Tom. I don't remember his last name. But he came, and what you see here in that pork chop was what he was considering at that time. He said, if you don't straighten out 83, this is going to be a problem forever.
Tom Maziarz.
Oh,
But that's it. Tom Mason.
Yeah, he's still at the department.
And he came back several times, but at that point, then the state had to sort of, reduce the amount of funding they could do because there were other issues coming up, and so we've been waiting and waiting, and it's that long now that we've been waiting for something to happen here. I think it has impeded development, not letting people think about going down 83 to do what they could do because it's such a difficult time getting down there.
give an example. Turn around and take a look at this project behind you. This is a $22 and $25 million project that's going to be off the Skiddy-Go Quality Avenue area for where the old mill was. So what's going to happen is we're going to have more people coming in here, millennials, people in age and place, and they're going to spend money. And if you think we have traffic problems, now wait.
You can't imagine
Till
a
this thing
Saturday,
starts.
a Friday, Saturday in this town. The back's
yeah.
way up,
Yeah.
past Field Road,
Yeah.
past Geisler sometimes.
At 3 o'clock, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, every night too.
I don't come home that way.
Commuters.
No, I don't blame you.
It's a nightmare.
The other thing is, we can talk about vision, we can kind of document this for you in terms of some of the other things we're talking about here. And then we'll try to get in the queue, so to speak, in terms of where we fit in this level of funding. Now, I'm prepared to explore the possibility of maybe the town contributing something to this. You're talking about a $1.58 million project for both of these, two of
That
the
was
three. I don't know if
19
that has to
years
be
ago.
updated too, right?
Yeah,
That's
we would
fine.
update the cost. Just to kind of, I don't mean to cut you off, but so when we looked at so we specifically looked at the realignment project, so John and I,
Mhm.
not so much the roundabout, but I
Good.
think we'd be about the same for cost anyways. The bulk of the cost ends up being where the building is, right? So it'd be the either removal, relocation, whatever
We could do
mitigation
that.
it is for the building. And then there's some parking, the parking area there, so there's a retaining wall. So the bulk of the cost is really focused on that quadrant of the
Mhm.
intersection. The rest of it, we'd probably redoing paving and stuff, but
Yeah.
the footprint's already there.
Right.
The footprint's wider than it
Oh,
really
yeah.
would need to be
Yeah,
for
the paving and
25
line
feet.
striping isn't really
exactly,
costly.
and then the utilities. So then the utilities we look at, right? So are there a lot of utility costs here? Not really, because the way we'd be shifting the road is away from the utilities.
Right.
That's
So
right.
they're not exorbitant either. So, the driving thing from the cost is that corner. So if the town were to say, hey,
Little
we're
bit on
interested
that.
in this, then the project has even more legs in my
Okay,
personal opinion.
let me just jump on that, because there'll be a cost to us to acquire that building. We'll be required through eminent domain to give fair market value, 1 or 2, 3, or 4 different assessments of the property. You take the average and you pay a particular person that owns it. So that's a cost. I mean, it's listed for $500,000, which is too high. So let's say it's half that, or 250 or 300. The town would have to come up with that money as a way to mitigate some of the cost. So that would remove, as you indicate, Mike, one of the bulk cost factors here, right?
Right.
And so that would then give us kind of better grades in terms of
In
qualifying.
In my opinion, I'm not a decision maker in terms of where projects fall in the program. I'm an influencer where I can say, I believe that this project has this kind of value, but I'm not that decision maker.
Okay.
But in my experience, that's what I would believe to be true. You know, anything
Yeah,
to say?
and I think it shows a lot of commitment from the town. And just to give you an example of how hard it is for us to go through the hoops of even modifying the aesthetics of a property like that, when they were going to redo the signal, we were getting a lot of feedback and pushback about even putting a new span pole for the signal in front of the property, because it would, it would be in the way of this historic property.
Got it.
So if it's difficult to just put a span pole in front, you could imagine, all the work that we would have to do if we could even do it internally to work within that project. So it would not even money. It would definitely make it much easier for us to push this project along. And
Yeah, John, I mean, I'm all in favor of historical preservation, but that building, the only thing historical about it are some beams in the
There's
basement.
one
Foundation.
timber,
Okay.
one timber.
And it's got aluminum siding on it.
We'll put a
Really-
monument
Oh,
for it.
It's an eyesore.
Had a fire.
Yeah.
there's a whole department that
So
focuses
it-
for that reason on it.
Yeah, so when a property is listed as contributing to the district, there's a more intense evaluation from a historic properties section 106 standpoint that would go on. So right now, I think a lot of people are going on assumptions, and when we're talking about the building over there. But fact of the matter is, if a project were to go to design and the building were still to be there, we would have probably a much longer schedule and time frame. There'd be more PE costs, engineering costs that would be associated with the evaluation of that. So long story short is, if the building were not to be there, the
That would be
project would
better.
have a lot more viability.
That's good to know.
Okay, nice. That
We
was
know
my
what we have to
assessment.
do.
But again, we'll go through the procedure. We'll
Sure.
do it properly and legally.
Have a-
And
have
we'll
a
make the assumption
town
that the
meeting.
owner would be willing to sell this. But I mean,
Right.
Yeah, you'd have to take pictures of it, do some sort of study on the building, take
Yeah.
pictures, record what's there, and then demolish it.
We take it to a town meeting first.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Anything with town.
But I
property.
think we just have to let the public know.
If the town
Okay.
required that, might be able to do a few different things with it. Maybe address some parking issues with some of the leftover land, or if other development was to come in on adjacent properties, we could look at combining the remaining land with some of those properties.
That's a good idea.
So just to be clear, John and Mike, you're looking at option 3.
That was the one that we saw in the plan of conservation and development.
Yeah, that was like
Yeah.
2004 though.
That one seems to make the most. I mean, we haven't looked at the roundabout, right? So, but that's the one that made sense geometrically for us. You would improve sight lines. You add left turn lanes. You're shifting traffic to the right, away from utilities. It seemed like there was a lot of value added there, whereas the roundabout we haven't really looked at yet.
And it's easier for me to say that the south leg will work for the roundabout. For me to say that, I would have to probably do a 3D drawing to see the approaches coming right. You can't just throw the
Can't
circle
just
in
stick
and
it.
make it work. You'd have to just skew all the approaches slightly to going in. So I can't tell you with confidence it'll work.
Got it.
The realignment I can. We would
Okay.
definitely look more into the traffic circle. We're not just going to push it away. I wouldn't sit. Those are both good options.
One of the immediate concerns that I have with the roundabout is the close proximity to the tractor trailer training facility.
That's huge.
I I've seen them go up and down through that area, causing a lot of backup themselves.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a good point, because the size of those trucks, 40 feet long, negotiating that circle,
Well,
plus...
they get around there, you get around.
Right, we design it for it, right?
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a, were we designing it? We're designing it for the average driver. Now there's that question too: is there people going to be? Are the public going to be concerned with a novice driver negotiating a roundabout on a
That's
roundabout?
Well, the
Exactly.
local traffic is used to it anyway,
Yeah.
because they're novice drivers all over Summers. Personally, I prefer the traffic circles because they tend to be more maintenance-free
Sure.
and certainly slow down the traffic, the speed rate that we have on Main
for
Street.
sure.
Um,
That we noticed that was one of the things in the plan as well, right? Making sure that we have reduced speeds, lower speeds through the center. So that was another one of my questions: was what some of the vision for that area that
I
the town
can tell you a little
has?
bit of the vision would be to extend the sidewalk down Route 83 on both sides, and this is the business district in basically Summers Center here, that being the center of the business district here. We were envisioning sidewalks down both sides and making it more of a walkable area
Community,
to get
yeah.
from the north side of Main Street down to Geisler's, Dunkin' Donuts, whatever
That
restaurants
would
and
help
stuff down there.
economic development, yeah.
And a roundabout would improve the safety of pedestrian
Mhm.
crossings and traffic. It takes away the conflict points. You don't have to worry about T-bone accidents, which would be cause injuries. With a roundabout, you don't have that. I think pedestrian crossings with the regular intersection with the push button is fine, like the way they're going to do it now, with crossings. But with a roundabout, you're able to continue walking through the traffic circle just like the cars are continuously going through the traffic circle. So I think the state is coming around to that. Connecticut always seemed to be the last of doing certain things, and the roundabouts have come. In my 45 years of working in the state, before they would never even think about it because of the traffic circle up in Long Meadow, East Long Meadow.
Oh, yeah.
The
Everybody
rotaries,
thinks
I don't
about
those
that.
are rotaries.
You seen that?
Yeah,
So
that's
everybody,
different.
everybody
Yep.
didn't want to hear about
Flags,
it. They didn't want to
yeah,
hear
yeah.
about it. But then a few of them popped up around the state, and that one in Ellington, that 5-corner intersection.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
It's beautiful.
The design.
I just took it
And I think
yesterday.
everybody that goes through there, I think, is sold on it.
They are so.
The way that they have, I went through the one up in East Long Meadow yesterday, and it's.
That's a free-for-all, that's not a traffic.
I always told my wife, I said, if you
That's
can
just-
drive through here, you get your driver's license.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, I should drive
A lot
through
of
there.
access to
Give
it,
it to
yeah.
it, but,
What they need.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think the roundabout, they have over 17,000 of them in Europe, and they've been.
Certainly in New York State has been using them
Yeah.
effectively.
Yeah, Connecticut, like I said, is slow too, but
Yeah,
they're
just
coming
did
around.
have it, yeah.
But like you said, Todd, as far as maintenance, once you put that in,
Yeah, and that's for the
As far as
state, I mean,
striping.
you don't have any, the power goes out, there's no lights. I mean, Roundabout doesn't care. That's-
Right, no,
that's-
for
that's
sure.
a-
We would have to make sure the volumes are balanced and
Yes.
all
Yep.
those roundabout-y things are.
In terms of the vision thing, it sounds like George Washington's vision thing.
Yeah, I'm just interested in what's the vision.
Yeah, so we've done some projections in terms of the next 10 years. I know that's hard to do with plan of conservation development. But, we're forward thinking here, and we can see up here off of 190 a complete complex in terms of fire and safety and police, etc. And so we have plans for that kind of development. But if that goes through and it gets approved by the voters and we have the cash, this is going to become even more problematic. So we're talking about developing this downtown area, making it a safe walking area.
We would like a walkable community.
Yeah, putting in additional businesses that are controlled economic development, as I call it, making it a place to go-to place. Tied in also with Somersville in terms of the mill, and some of the other projects that we envision have in our mind. Kathy, you want to comment further on that?
Well, yeah, we had a vision for a long time about a heart-healthy community, and we were actually working a little bit with Representative Courtney on that as well. And part of the Heart Healthy was being able to extend the walking and encouraging it. We started with the senior center, and trying to get some decent, roads and sidewalks that could travel. But we're kind of hindered by this intersection here. And I think we'd like to be more like other towns that can do those things. And I look at West Hartford as a big walkable community. And I know we're not West Hartford, but we could offer those amenities to our people as well.
So I see us. So this is my personal opinion coming out, right? I see the department as having a ability to kind of do some. I'll call them low cost improvements, right? For in terms of what our budgets are, I would say they're relatively low cost to kind of achieve some of these goals. So that's kind of why I'm asking these questions, right? So, some towns will say, we're looking for, on-street parking, or we have parking problems, we need this. Other towns will say, we're really worried about controlling access, where we have access issues up and down a state corridor where there's driveways everywhere and people are turning in and out, and it's become a problem. And so we work with towns on access management stuff. Yeah. So that's really a lot of the impetus of what I'm asking, is so that we can create a project that aligns with the vision of the town, that works and it is fiscally responsible as well, right? So we're trying to balance all that. So that's why I asked.
Mike and John, Mike Marinacci, our Chief Financial Officer, has joined us. This is Mark.
Nice to meet you.
And John. And Mike and I talked briefly this morning. Mike, let me just keep you up to date here. Biggest cost associated with any potential development of those three options that I just gave to you would be removing that building. Okay?
Removing it or taking ownership?
Taking ownership of it, excuse me, with the eventual
yeah.
objective of removing the building.
So just to clarify, the biggest cost would be the building itself, the acquisition, removal, the demolition, and the site work on
right.
that. So assuming, those are like three pieces of
right.
the corner there, because there's grade differences.
Right.
There's a little retaining wall. There's some stuff that we would have to do if we assumed all of that work.
Right. But again, the biggest impediment to the Department of Transportation has been that building. Okay?
Okay.
And we've been talking about vision today and in the future for this town. We're talking about impediments in terms of traffic safety. And we're talking about development. So, but they keep coming back to the building.
So, okay, I have a question. So, if the town takes steps to remove the building, and then the building gets removed, do any of those costs work themselves into the total project cost?
So what they would do, they would definitely boost the ability for the department to have a viable project to move forward. Because I guess think that if the building were owned by the town, if it were not there anymore, it would allow the project to compete at a better level with other projects in the state. So they're all competing against each other, right? Priorities, needs, costs.
But in terms of, okay, the site and it's the need to clear the site and to prepare, all those costs are kind of falling on the town initially before there's any approvals. Is there a way to capture any form of reimbursement or a portion of reimbursement for those initial costs to get us to that point where we have an approved project? Or does the town bear all the upfront costs too?
I'm not as familiar, so we'd have to look into that a little bit. So
that was my concern.
A lot of times,
CFO.
a lot of times with these projects with federal funding, you can't go and pay for something that's already been done using federal dollars, right? And I'm not so
But
certain.
they built the interstate highway system through the eminent domain. I mean, and then a lot of those costs were federally reimbursed to build the highway and state reimbursement in order to achieve that. So in order to achieve the vision and achieve the project, let's say the town says, we really want to do this. So we're going to go in there and we're going to either buy this place or take this place so that this project can happen. At that point, I would advise the selectman as the chief financial officer to at least seek some form of compensation or reimbursement for having undertaken those steps. It's the chicken and the egg thing.
Exactly.
So
here's my perspective on it, and I hope I don't mislead anybody. But so where we stand, so if the town were not interested in buying the property, the job would have a certain level of priority to the state's whole capital program.
further down the list.
It may be, right?
Yeah.
Because it's going to have a
Configuration.
higher cost. It may have a higher cost, but I mean that's not understanding where it stands right now at all, right? So I'm not weighing it against anything. I don't know what program it would fall into. I'm just speaking generally. If I were to go 0 to 100 of all projects in the state, where would it fall? It undoubtedly would move up the list if the property were not there, if the town owned it and it was gone, right? Because I would say that one of the major drivers for the cost is that property, and so then it's more than, you know, its priority goes up. It would be more likely that the project would move forward, whereas right now it would just kind of maybe sit on a needs list, right? So, and I'm speaking very figuratively, very, you know, broad. I don't know where it stands right now. We haven't got to that point yet.
Yeah,
We're just trying
Mike,
to figure it out.
before you come in, we talked about the available funding, capital funding for
Okay.
these projects, plus where we stand in the queue.
Yeah.
And of course, we keep coming back to the
You know,
building.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
I actually worked for the DOT for like 8 years.
Oh, all right.
Very early in my career, we had
know
horses and
that.
carriages. And my claim to fame was I was actually on the team that surveyed the toll booths that said, get rid of the tolls. So,
All right.
and now people want to bring
You want to
them
put it
back.
back. So
That was my
we're-
claim to fame. I was a grunt who did a lot of work and breathed a lot of gas fumes down there. But,
We've
know that about
sanitized
Mike?
him now from his
yeah.
past experience.
But, okay, so my final question would be, so if the town took the steps to take ownership of that piece of land and then just sat there with it, waiting for us to move up in the queue, then would the destruction and preparation of that site then become part of the project
Sure,
cost?
that could all be determined
Okay.
with how we move forward with that, with the
Okay.
project, right? So we're a little on the far outside right now, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, it's
We're hypothetical.
the capital plan or the state's budget, funding availability, it's flavor of the month. What's the latest? Do we have toll money? We're not going to toll? Are we going to bond diet? We're going to cut all projects? We're
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
spend all kinds of extra ramp up money? You guys understand, right? It's
Yeah, we
it's
do.
the climate. So yes, that could very well be an
Okay.
option.
Okay, fair enough.
The other thing that I've seen, like with our mill project, is that we had a grant, and then we applied for a supplemental grant, which was the town is supposed to put in a certain percentage of that grant, 10%. So maybe if a project went forward, our money that we put towards acquiring that could go towards our percentage. Let's say it's 80-10-10, federal, state, and town. Maybe that could go towards our 10% or something like that. Instead of getting reimbursed, we wouldn't have to put in anymore.
Yeah, sure.
So
Correct.
something like that
That's
could
what
be.
I was
that's
thinking.
one
There's
of
a
his
lot of
like that.
options there. Okay.
But we don't know that yet. We don't know the
Yeah.
percentages yet.
Right.
Maybe it'll be 100%
Right.
federal. Who knows?
Yeah.
Depends on the program. Depends
Is
how,
this
how
federal or state or both?
Both.
So it's uncertain, right? So
Yeah.
we're in a world where it could be all sorts of different
Right now, all the
things.
work we would be doing is overhead. So
Okay.
we're taking the steps, kind of the same way you guys took steps on your own. We're taking the steps to create a better package
Mhm.
to get it into the program.
Yeah, this report was done by CROG back in 2003, and we have applied for funding for this project, and it ranked against all the other projects. It ranked low because it was a state, both of them were state roads.
Right.
So we didn't get points for that. When they were town roads, you got more points.
Yeah.
Right.
So being two state roads, we didn't get any points, so we were down the list. So that, we've applied at least once to CROG when they asked for submittals.
But it's
to
more
do
heavily
this.
used than our town roads,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Which we brought that up. We talked about that a little bit.
So it's more of a state project than a town project.
Exactly.
It
Yes.
affects the town, so I think the town wants to participate
wants
in
it.
doing something here to get the ball rolling, I think. Or else it's just gonna stay the way it is, it's gonna be sitting on the
So like
shelf.
you mentioned, theoretically, yeah, let's say we go further down, it gets approved into a certain group, and it goes 80-10-10.
Yeah.
I believe there is potential for you to, the money you already spent to go against
Utilize
what you
it
guys
for-
already
yeah,
contributed.
yeah.
That's happened before on signal projects,
Mhm.
but that's definitely a good question for our finance group or financial group.
So if it's 80-10-10 and it's a $3 million project, that's $300,000, which is around where you said
Yeah,
that.
and this is all theoretical, you know.
Yeah.
Just double the cost. It'd be 1.5 million.
Well,
that was 16 years ago.
16 years ago, it probably is.
Just using round
We want a
numbers.
discount.
I don't know what the numbers are. I don't know what the numbers are.
Just a roundabout in Stanford, it's
Yeah.
4 million, 4.1.
So, not to jump ahead, but so you will then take a look at these three options, the roundabout and the direct south lake, okay? try to update the cost for us? And what do you need from us? You need more detail on
Something
terms of the
to go, yeah.
vision?
Maybe a
or-
vision or something, like about the sidewalks and about the business district
Yeah.
and walkable community.
So you
Well, a
need,
nice,
safety.
a nice write-up, maybe?
Mhm.
Yeah, that would be good. Right up
Yeah,
to.
it's
so,
The
Mike,
vision.
they were talking about this vision thing. I keep
Yeah.
using that term. But they're saying, what are our plans besides the safety and the development? I'm saying at some point in time, we're thinking about developing this whole area here in terms of a complex. And
Yeah, and you would have to explain that you're updating your entire zoning, you can talk about that already.
No, we have
And
talked
we
about
have the concept of a village and all that, I mean, you have to include all that, I would think.
yeah,
Yeah, I think
The vision
a
is,
summary.
that's how we got the mill money to knock the mill down, was
Yeah.
our vision, not because of all the numbers and everything. They were looking for, this is what it looks like now, what are you gonna make? You know, what
Tell a
is that?
story.
Yeah, I think the
Tell a
conversation
story of what we want the center
we
of
had
town
here
to
was
look
pretty
like.
good. If you could somewhat summarize it and kind of capture, like, you know, the walkability, a healthy
Mhm.
community,
Safety.
and that this is, you know, hurting your vision,
Mhm.
that would definitely help.
okay.
Right, and you want to. I think you would want to marry how you wanted to tie into that vision, right? So I mentioned before you got here. I mentioned, you know, I need to know how my project, how this project is impeding you, how, you know, what you see it as, what you see the area used for, what are the problems in the area right now, and how it's affecting your ability to move that moving forward. You know, whether it's people avoiding the area because of traffic or safety, whether it's the property not being redeveloped because or businesses not coming in because of the uncertainty, whatever it may be. That's what I was here to, you know, ask about. Is there
Okay.
certain things that the town is implementing on a town-wide basis, like every development needs to have a sidewalk in front of the property, right? Or a certain type of material needs to be used in a certain zone. Those are things that, you know, we kind of want to know because there are going to be costs, right? That we're going to have to incur and decide
Right.
whether or not we want to
Like, you guys need granite curbing, like that could change the,
Yeah.
you know, the
Definitely.
cost.
Great.
So
Yeah.
it's just items like that, like,
Yeah, they're switching the zoning, they're switching this area to be a village district, so that if a
Right.
development comes in, it's gonna need to blend in with the
Yes.
architecture in the area.
so that's exactly, I think, what he's
So
talking
that's
about.
what they're
Yeah.
switching to. I
That's
don't know, I mean, think about the granite curb and all
So,
that.
so we want to be sensitive to all that stuff and understanding of it, so we have a good, clear concept to push forward, so that there, you know, that there's not surprises for the town or the state and its capital plan moving forward. So if we can kind of marry it all together,
And we can work on this too. Like, you don't have to give us everything right now. We could
Yeah.
like start developing this, and then,
Okay.
oh hey,
Okay.
we want this.
As
but-
Mike and Jeff had talked about, we initiated about a year ago at a considerable expense to do a complete rewrite and review of all our zoning regulations with this whole concept of this vision moving forward, which we found was retarding developers coming in here. And also, part of that piece was this intersection here. So that's all tied together. Yeah, we can come up with a cogent, I think, story
so.
about this. In parallel lines, you can start working on this also.
Correct.
And I can give you a rough draft, and you could say, you know, flesh this out or more information here, give you the wherewithal to move it forward. I guess that's what you're
Who
saying.
would we rate
right?
the limit to?
um,
Address it to at this point.
Jonathan,
you can send it to John's unit. Would be the best, probably. Marissa
Yeah,
Walsh.
Marissa, we can get in contact with me. I'll talk internally, see
Okay.
who the, you know, best person. I
Yeah,
don't know how
let us
half the
know.
chain, how we're going to want you to send it. But I think our group, we're just talking, and I think we can commit to just looking into these further. You know,
That's good. That's a start.
yeah, and like it's hard to give you a timeline. It could be a year. We have other stuff we have to do at the same time. You know, I could work on this a couple days here, a couple days there. But give you like a more solid report.
Yeah, I just want to get started.
Yeah,
I mean, here's
and
been 16 years and
Just
nothing's
just
been done.
thinking, I think we would maybe start this from our end,
Right.
including incorporating us taking all the burden of the historic property, and then later, as you guys get, you know, maybe acquire it, we could reduce those costs, and our project shouldn't be that hard to modify. But
Right.
I think just
We
thinking
started
about-
that baseline. so
Right.
Right,
We
so
have to
yeah,
The
assume
total project would
we have to
cost.
assume we're going to take all costs,
Right.
and then as your end develops, we could you know, reduce those costs, and it'll just help things move along. But
Right. So in the meantime, like So when we're developing a project and pushing it forward, you know, you haven't purchased any property yet. You haven't committed to using some sort of eminent domain method to gain it, right? So unless we have that, we would have to assume it right now. And so, like I said, I don't know where the project would fall in terms of priority, way against the other projects throughout the state and other buckets of money that we have. But like I said, if there was a commitment, if there was actual transaction, you know, that moves things up the list, right? That chugs it up and says, yep, this is now has a better return on our investment because I don't actually have to spend, you know, maybe I'm using round numbers, using $3 million now, I only have to spend $1.5 million. And now the project I'm getting a much more return on our investment because of that. And so now that project has a better
So
return.
let's make that assumption again. And we expend funds to take over this building. The project moves forward, then we can apply for reimbursement then?
That's something that I'm not super familiar with
Okay.
at
You could-
my level. We can.
I can put you in touch with the right
I
people.
don't necessarily call it applying for reimbursement. I call it as the total project cost. It may be
8-10-10.
necessary to do certain things. And,
Maybe a credit
and
or
it
something.
become, you know, it's,
Yeah,
that
maybe.
you can't really, I agree with these guys, you can't really define that at this point in time.
But we could work on it. So, like, let's say it's not going to be overnight. So when you guys are working on this and like, hey, we're getting close to the point where we could possibly buy that property, potentially we could expedite our report to kind of match up to, you know, we don't want you. I don't think you guys want to buy a property and then we decide we're not going to go through with it.
Right.
Okay.
So it would you know, we would definitely be in talks. We wouldn't really want you to go through with things without us being comfortable. Like, let's say if there's something internal and we say, hey, we're not going to touch this intersection. We're not going to let you just go buy the property. But we kind of both need to be working
Yeah.
together and, you know.
I'll put it this way: if you're going to get to that point where you're definitely going to do something, if you can call me or call John or us and just let us know, hey, I'm going to do this. Where do we stand today on our chances of a project moving forward?
Right.
And I will give you that answer right then.
That's what we want. That's what we want. We just want a fair shake.
That'd be perfect.
And then that way you can do your business decision however you want.
Yeah. So, what do you guys think?
Well, me?
I mean,
I mean, you know.
what do they?
Yeah, but the chances for success of getting the necessary.
I think it's got very good chances. It goes
If you
find
do all the right
finance.
things,
Especially
Right.
you
with
would
the
have
course,
At the
it.
right
all
time.
said.
Right.
But like, you're afraid of financing. There's little pools of money for different things,
Mhm.
and if you're looking, I don't know those pools of money, but like it's potential, like hey, you want to make a healthy community, there could be a pool for that. Our finance group is pretty good, and they try to squeeze these projects in where they can. If there's just some money that they need to spend for, you know, smaller communities, they could fit in there. But they need projects ready to go
Right.
when they need to squeeze it in, when they redo their budgets. So, you know, we have to get this project to a certain point where we could just hand them, hey, listen, we have a project in this area that has this criteria. It costs this much. Can you squeeze it in somewhere?
It's on these roads. These are the problems.
Right.
These are what the improvements
Right.
are. Safety
Right, so-
improvements.
So they take their marching orders from you, then, John, in terms of. Well, I say the
Not
marching
exactly.
orders.
No, we help them out, help them come up with items to fill our whole budget up.
Okay.
You know,
So we're looking at what are viable projects to the state to spend its money on, and
Yeah.
so we're proposing those projects to people to have them spend it, and then the decision makers are saying, all right, how does this project fit in with our capital plan? Is it to provide us enough return on investment to make sense to go forward with that expenditure?
How do they define return on investments for a project like this?
So that's an ongoing, very fluid process right now. We're trying to become more asset-driven as a department, where we're looking at all the assets, whether it's pavement, signals, signing, pavement markings, things like that, and saying, you know, how is this project addressing my asset-driven approach as a department? And so out here, you would have, you know, the intersection, the whole thing would be improved. So that would be a pretty good in terms of improving an asset. It's looking at am I reducing congestion, right? Every second or every minute a person's sitting at a light that's not moving, you talk about 13 cars
13
going.
cars
I've seen
and
it.
2 lights.
I went to Geisler's. I passed a tractor trailer truck that was just to the south of Field Road. I went in the Geisler's. I got my stuff. I got back. I got in the line of traffic, and that tractor trailer truck was not even through the light yet. So all that time wasted is dollars. Same goes for
Pollution.
same right. So that's all baked into those dollars.
See, when you talk about return on investment, you're talking about qualitative returns on investment.
I'm talking
Okay.
about
Quantitative.
That's what
So
I'm asking.
quantitative, but there's also we're starting to get into the more quantitative when you talk about the ability to have economic development as a driver.
Right.
So there's quantitative stuff that can be dollars that can be accounted for that. Now we're just kind of starting to scratch the surface, I think, on the economic development piece. It's something that we're pushing for.
It's definitely something great to add into the report. It
Yeah.
just, if there's two, benefit cost ratio. Hey, we're spending $1 million, but theoretically we're going to get 1.5 million back in crash reductions, emission reductions, and then
Potential jobs.
right. So there's two of them that are the exact same, and then but you have yours, and it says, hey, there's additional stuff that will happen from this project.
Yeah.
It just helps. Someone out higher up then has to sell this project also and respond to taxpayers or the media or whoever, and we just need as much ammo as we can. So we can take care of the numbers, crash reductions.
Just so there's a lot of politics here too, right?
Potentially,
There's
yeah.
always politics, right?
We can't misuse the money because
Public dollars.
Yeah.
Who do I have to contact? I'm asking point blank.
State
I'm not
reps,
bashful
yeah.
about this.
Yeah.
I mean,
Look,
to help
reps,
you
senators,
guys. Not going over your head, but
look, state reps, senators, all that stuff ends up being influence on things, right? Because they deal with budget, they deal with constituencies, as the selectmen do. Their constituency's a little larger. So
How about your coordinator, the U.S. rep? Help us.
all that stuff is
Okay.
Yeah, I mean-
firepower and available to
I
you.
understand
right?
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
If a
I'm
citizen
gonna-
complains about something, we'll obviously get to it, but sometimes when a louder voice speaks, we have to do it
So
faster.
speaking of citizens, so where's the public stand on this?
We
I'm
have
on
to have a hearing.
It's being televised right now. I think you're going to probably get a lot of support because every time I walk around this town, I go to Dunkin' Donuts. So what are you going to do about that intersection?
Yeah.
I have a question. Do you guys also look at the power lines that are coming across? Is that all part of your consideration
There'll be
in the
utility
design?
cost.
Yeah.
Because during Storm Alfred, it was really frightening for a number of us because the power company had to come out, and I went out with the attorney, and we had to go to the establishments and find the owner so that we could get an electrician in there so they could turn the power back on. Maybe some of that could be reduced as well because it was really very difficult. We couldn't even get a pump going for the mobile station then.
So
There's
that'd
no
be
gas or
Project Creep.
nothing.
Does we want to mention or no?
What?
Extending the project limits, whether it be physical, because we could obviously go there and fix the sewer lines, figure everything, but then you're talking about cost.
But I'm just looking at from a design perspective. Do all those overhead wires, they still stay there?
We would have to see.
So when it comes to overhead versus underground utilities, right? There's I'll call it an incredible cost to go and bury everything.
Okay.
So while there is added aesthetic value in my opinion to getting rid of, and there's added safety value, right? Utility poles, people do hit them unfortunately. It's an incredible cost, both for the implementation of it, and then there's even a pretty good cost for maintenance of it if you have to go and modify anything later on, right? If you have to upgrade anything or tap into a service or whatever it may be. So it's not so we need to make sure we focus on what's the purpose and need of the project.
Okay.
And so if the purpose and need of the project is to address safety and congestion,
Yeah.
maybe some enhancements for sidewalks or whatever
Right.
it ends up being, we need to, if we're spending our money responsibly and in the court of the letter of the law, we need to be focused on, is this aspect of the project meeting that purpose and need?
Mhm.
So underground utilities doesn't always. So what we have sometimes, just to kind of be fair to give you how other towns have done things where they're getting utilities underground. What those towns will do a lot of times is end up paying for them themselves. They have a need, so they say, we really want to get these utilities. We think they're an eyesore, they're this, they're that. So we'll say, okay, well, we have to move the utilities anyways for this project. Maybe we don't for this, but for another figure, what am I going to say? So yeah, like an example project, we had to move utilities maybe 6 feet, a whole line. And so that was going to cost us maybe, I don't know, $500,000. And so we may say, all right, well, the total utility cost for going underground might be $2 million. So, okay, town, if you can pony up the $1.5 million, we'll still kick in what we would have paid to relocate them anyways. And then we have some sort of agreement for you to do that. So whether or not that's of interest to the town, you can let us know. But we would pay the cost that we would have paid to relocate them. Other than that, it's a betterment for the town, so it's not part of the purpose of it.
Yeah, that's further down the road too. So.
I just wondered about all those utilities and what you were going to do to design it. That's all. It doesn't. We have to do what we can do and have a palatable opportunity for the town without something that really drives them into, oh my God, where are we going to get this money?
Right, and that's where I come back to the whole, tell me the vision, right? So one of the easy things I can do, and John can do, is red line things to say, no, that isn't going to fit in with the purpose of me, or that's too much cost and I can't justify that.
Mm-hmm.
But what I can't do as easily is come up with that list of things, right? So
we could.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because we live here, we
Live
know.
here.
Purpose of the project.
I've written a
See
lot of stuff
proximity
down.
of history. You're more. You have a year to the
Good
ground
point.
with the people.
History.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, and will you give us part of a report? Big factor I mentioned is the purpose and need. Basically, a statement that clearly outlines,
Yeah.
why we're doing this project and why you guys need it, and we'll provide that.
Yeah, I'll start with that.
The why.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why? What it needs to fix.
Very important.
And as I mentioned, John and Mike, you can start preliminarily, parallel line looking at
Oh, yeah.
options.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. And we'll be in contact. We'll shoot us an email with the stuff we asked you, and we could just bounce back and forth informally, and just say, hey, this is where we're at. This is.
I want to
looking
state
at.
publicly, I'm very impressed with both you gentlemen. I mean that sincerely, in terms of your knowledge and experience and your
They've been
willingness
very
to help.
helpful.
Because we have to think, because we're parochial in our interests, because we love our town, we do too.
Right. I
But
try to be as.
But I understand how it
biased.
fits in the
Right.
queue here, so to speak, and I understand the financial issues that the state has had. And I think it's how we present the story, the purpose. I call it the shtick and a sizzle. I think we do a pretty good job of getting that to you.
I think we could.
And there is somewhat of a need. Clearly you can see that. It's not. You're not just wanting us to come and
For convenience.
fancy it up.
Oh, no.
There is something that could be addressed.
I think we'll try to get
potentially.
something very tangible together for you. And with what we've heard from our folks here between Mike and Jeff and Todd, I think we could work together with them and really get it out to you quickly.
Cool.
'Cause it hasn't been 1 year long. It's been
16 years.
over a course of 18 years at least.
Yeah, some of the reports I was reading were pretty old.
Do you have any questions for us? I think we pretty much
Yeah,
know.
I think we said a lot. Anything minor items we could.
Okay,
Just
so
talk
you'll be
about.
our point of contact then, John?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you
Then I'll
very much.
we'll
John.
copy you, Mike.
You on the
Yeah.
emails? Your emails on that?
Yeah, it's on the
It's
it's on
on
the
here.
card.
The most recent.
Isn't it?
All right. Well, thanks a
Yes,
lot
it
for
is.
coming.
It's right
for coming
on
in.
there.
No problem. Yep. So.
Follow along. Hope we
Thank you.
something.
Do you have a card? Do you have his card?
My
Okay,
card?
because I have.
I don't.
Yeah, I
His
don't have
card
any
is-
cards in the
I have
envelopes
John.
for that.
That's all right.
Yeah. Well, when
John,
I
you give
reply
that.
back, I could attach
I'm
your
in the
contact.
I'm in the my contacts are in
No, we know where to find you.
Are you guys tracking down?
John, do you have another card? I'm sorry.
No, sorry, I couldn't bring it up.
Kathy, did you take his card from me? Oh, you took his card.
What? That's my card. You took one. You already have one.
Do you want them to adjourn?
That's my
You're
card.
not
Are
getting
you
one.
guys going to adjourn your meeting?
Well,
I don't know if we should adjourn or if we should meet and discuss the whys. if you're here and we have those great ideas and we share them, it may make it more robust than to try to have another meeting. I think these guys don't have to stay. They did their thing, but if you, I'm willing to stay and spend some more time on the whys
Yeah,
if
you
you'd
guys are all
like to.
set. Appreciate you coming.
Yeah, I do
We
too.
got one
Thanks
more
for
thing to
having
talk about on the agenda, and you guys don't need to stay around.
Cool. Thank you for having us.
I thank you.
Excellent.
You sure you want
I have to come on.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice meeting you.
Thank you very
John.
much. Nice meeting you too.
Thanks.
John,
Very
thanks for your help.
helpful.
Thank you.
Bit of community.
Thank you. We'll talk
How are
about
your
this.
kids?
They are 1 and 2 and 5.
Not school yet.
Oh no, they'll be. My son will be going to kindergarten this year.
Okay, good.
Thank
Nice talking to you.
Yes, nice talking to you too.
Take care.
You wanted an update, I guess, Bud?
Yeah.
I want to hear it.
Okay.
What Walter gave me in terms of property, et cetera. So, this is crazy.
What happened to the pork chop? Oh,
That's for the. So, I guess Tim had asked, Tim Patrikas had asked via an email the status of the phasing of the signal,
Okay. I
And
talked
also-
to, go ahead, Henny Penny.
and also Henny
Henny
Penny,
Penny.
yes.
Yeah, Henny Penny, they've applied and acquired a permit for demolition
Okay,
and for the new building.
all right,
The state has sent them a letter approving their layout and their turning movements. So everything's moving forward. The fire department did some training over there on the building
Saw
last week.
that.
right.
They pulled up, the company pulled the oil tank that was in the ground over there. Everything was clean. And they're going to start with the demolition. So that's going to happen shortly. As far as the intersection, I spoke to the project manager with the contracting company, electrical contractors, and he said that they're going to be back in here the end of September.
So the building will be down by that time,
Well, this is the building will probably be down by then.
okay.
Yeah.
And when are they gonna start, do you know?
End of you mean building?
Yeah.
Oh, they're going to probably just keep going. This company that's doing it just does the gas stations for this company, and
Right.
they do everything from demolition to building the building to the final as-built. So I think they're just going to continue building it after the building comes down. But the intersection project with the electrical contracting company, they're working in Bloomfield, then Windsor Locks, and then Summers. So this is the project is a part of 14 traffic lights around the state. So that's what he told me. They're working in Bloomfield now,
October.
then Windsor Locks, and then Summers. So end of September, he said they should be back in here putting up the pedestrian heads
I'll know
and the
what
new
they're
traffic
at.
light and
Yeah.
the new striping
Heard
and the
that
turning
before.
lane and all that.
Wasn't that supposed to happen in April?
Oh, I don't know when it was supposed to happen.
April, that's right.
April.
So we'll take that with a grain of
It's a
salt,
state, it's a
Jeff.
state project,
Yeah.
so the
Yeah.
town doesn't have anything to do with it,
Yeah.
really.
But
As far as
Jeff,
moving
would you
it
go
along.
over with me what the intention of those lights is going to be?
Yeah.
Is it? I heard it once, but
Yeah.
I get a lot of
The
questions.
main thing is that issue that Mike was talking about this morning, and you were talking about waiting two lights. Well, the north and the south direction are going to have their own time period to go, green. So when you're going north and you want to turn towards Enfield, you're going to keep going. There's not going to be any car coming down from the north stopping.
You'll have to wait till you make that
So
turn.
then all those cars go, the light goes red, and coming down from the north in Massachusetts, then you can go.
Right.
And the other movement and improvement would be a left turn lane, which would be basically on Main Street here in front of Henny Penny, turning towards Dunkin' Donuts. You're going to have a designated arrow in the left turn lane to sit in. And straight and right are going to be next to it. Right now, it's straight and left
That's what it is.
and creates a hazard.
And
For
that's
people that are
also
going straight.
dangerous right
Oh,
now.
definitely. I go there.
I almost got
Number of
killed
times.
one day.
So-
I had the green light, and this guy decided to go.
Yep. And then the other improvement
Around
is
the other
pedestrian
car.
crossing, push button control pedestrian crossings at each leg. So it
So
should
it's-
improve it.
Okay, so it's
I-
like simultaneous rights, simultaneous lefts, or no?
The
Right
lane.
on left, you mean? Right on
Well, you
red?
said you know that the north and the south
Yeah.
are going to be like
They're
that.
going to go their own time.
Okay. And then what happens with a left-hand turn?
left-hand turn, you're gonna have your own time to go. You can go straight, left, right, whenever you, there's not gonna be anything in your way stopping you.
Because that north and south will be
That's what was stopping everybody.
Phased.
perfect.
They'll
Heading
have their own-
northbound is the only one moving, and then heading southbound are the only ones moving. All of the three legs are stopped, or red.
Biggest problem is coming up 83, making a left,
Yeah.
or coming
Yeah.
down 190.
And the other thing, the timing is gonna be controlled by video, what I understand. Video
Oh.
controls.
Oh, really?
And not the detectors that are in the pavement, from what I understand. But we'll see how that happens. So that if there's no more cars coming, the light will
It'll
know it,
change.
and it'll go red.
It's supposed to be a smart system that
Yeah.
does lighting.
Is that possible? Do they have that on Elm Street in Enfield?
They might.
Because I
Might.
think I've been at that light, and sometimes it's long, but there's traffic, and when there isn't, I
But
get
what
to
it is
move right
now
along.
is the detectors on the pavement. The detector will tell the computer or control box if there's any cars coming, say 200 feet away, and it'll go like
But
5
there's a
seconds.
phase.
Nobody's triggering that detector in the road for 10 seconds. It'll go red.
Okay,
Good.
okay.
Good.
So that it should be an improvement, and they're going to be here end of September. I probably figure October, and see what happens, and that'll be a little better safety for pedestrians and turning movements until we can get this other ball rolling. You know, nothing happens quick with the state, obviously.
We know that.
But I think it was a good meeting with Mike. Mike seemed very
He's a very smart guy.
knowledgeable
Yeah, he's.
and well spoken, and I
Well,
think we got the right guy.
Yeah, before we come up with the vision discussion, I'd just like to touch upon what you and I and Jeff and Todd talked about, the Maple Street, the Skidco type
Mhm.
improvements, so we can talk about that. You're not aware of that, but,
No, I'm not, but I'm glad to hear it.
yeah, so,
Here's the blacksmith shop.
Yep.
In Somersville. We've already done the other improvement over here in front of the mill a few years ago after the fire. This is just creating an all-way stop at this intersection, because right now southbound on on Maple rather, is a free-for-all.
Well, there's 3 different ways you can go, right?
Right, but the southbound traffic has priority, the other ones have stop.
Okay. Oh, that's
All
what
of
you're
this should be
placing in
stop.
there. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
should be an all-way stop for safety, and then Jeff has reconfigured some of the stop bars, which makes more sense for turning angles, and moving the stop bar for northbound on Maple over in front of the blacksmith shop.
for a site, yeah.
Sight line
Better
and make
sight
it better. And then moving the stop bar out on Skidco and putting a stop bar here on Maple. These are all very low cost improvements that we can do internally, really just with the vote of the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, and I think we ought to pursue this, Kathy. This would be a real inexpensive way to improve the safety, the traffic flow, and reduce the speeds there, too.
And can I interject that I think the sooner the better,
Mhm.
because you want to do it before construction starts, because people get more accustomed
Right.
to this, and
Right.
then it's a nothing after that.
I've been through that intersection many times, and that traffic coming down Penny Road.
That's the
Yeah,
one.
it's a
That's the
free-for-all.
bad
I
one
mean,
right here.
they're really, in fact, you can't see around that corner.
Yeah,
so-
this is very tight. We'll do some more cutting back here, but the property line is right close to the edge of the road, so it's a
Well, I
challenge.
understand that that particular house has grown the trees there for obvious
Yeah,
reasons.
yeah.
We have a right to cut those back.
Yeah, for sightline issues, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sightline issues.
So,
Okay, so I'm okay with that. Do we want to
Make a motion
move
then.
on that today?
yeah,
I move to approve the recommendations from Jeff Board and Todd Rowland for placing stop signs and stop lights,
Stop
On-
bars,
stop bars.
bars.
stop bars.
Always, making the Penny and Maple Street intersection an all-way stop.
All right, so
Right.
making that section an always stop, being Penny, Maple,
Skidco.
and
By
Skidco.
repositioning these stop.
Repositioning
You
the
won't
stop
have
bars
to
and
replace the guardrail like
at
that.
this point do it as soon as possible.
Okay. I second that. Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, gentlemen, you can,
Okay, we'll proceed.
that's a very inexpensive way to.
Mhm.
Too bad we
improve
can't
traffic
do
and
that.
safety.
Too bad we can't do that on,
Yeah,
what's the name of that road?
yeah. Because, Schaefer.
Shaker Road, it would
Yeah.
be a
Mhm.
blessing to have that. By the way, people are noticing more the recognition. They're recognizing you're requested not to use this road.
Oh,
More people
yeah.
are seeing it than before. It's not just an
Sign in the
aha
dark,
moment.
yeah.
I think it. Do you think it's making a difference?
I do. I think the big difference is really the electronic communications, where we put that up on Google Maps and the trucking maps. Tell the
I think
trucks
that's
not
helped a
to
lot.
use this road.
Yeah.
Have you, and you did that for George Wood Road too?
Mhm.
That's good, because that's been a little dangerous for people living on George Wood Road.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you
So,
did that too.
Since we're talking about that's in light, so to speak, in terms of these eyes, you know, you got the correspondence from Amavac in terms of Fort Bridges Road,
Mhm.
how to put a bigger sign
Yep.
there. Okay,
Actually, they came in yesterday. If I know.
okay,
So.
good.
Yeah, we're putting a 4-foot stop sign at the end of Holbert, where it joins Four Bridges. And we're
Right.
moving it back and putting an advance warning sign. She
Okay.
would like flashing lights or
Well,
something
I
like
can't-
that. The people that have been hitting her property are impaired. They don't respond to flashing lights either. So
Well, they do, but they just not sure.
Needs a couple of bold ones, big ones right there.
Okay,
Yeah.
can we just talk in general terms then about the vision in terms of what we discussed here, and then I could ask you for additional information, I can compose then, response to Jonathan and to Mike then, at least get this thing started.
I think you'd want to mention the studies that have been done, like this 190 report done by Krog and done by Wilbur Smith Associates, well-known engineering company. They did the study and came up with these recommendations that we're talking about, so it isn't something that we
Yeah.
just thought of ourselves. It's been around, and
It's been around a
I
long
don't know if
time.
there's any other studies.
There's probably
But-
vision in this stuff.
At that time,
could be, yeah.
They've done
in 2000, year 2000, I think it was, or 2001.
2001, 2003 or something.
Part of the vision was economic development, so that hasn't changed at all.
Just,
Yeah.
It would improve
I
economic.
think, like we talked about, the walkability of the area.
Yeah.
That's
The
very
vision
That's
of-
the main thing.
Connecting
Traffic
this
will,
this
I think
downtown.
would move through a roundabout, no problem,
Yeah.
personally.
But
Or it
you-
would move through a traffic light, no problem.
Right.
I think a roundabout's the way to go for the future. But the
And-
walkability, to be able to walk down the geysers from up on Maple Ridge for someone,
Oh,
would
yeah.
be nice.
the POCD study, which we should incorporate in
Yeah.
there also, in terms of their recommendation.
There's that one guy on a wheelchair that goes down from
Yeah,
Battle
Every day.
Street all the way down there. and
Oh, yeah, he's always,
the zoning regulation changes, right?
What's gonna happen is someone's gonna get hurt,
I agree.
someone's gonna get killed, and why didn't you do something?
We had
So-
one.
Yeah, and then you
Already.
need money, so if you can't get grants, the town has to have some, what do you call it? Some
Okay.
money in
think
the fight or
Part of it
something.
has to be safety.
Skin in the game.
Yeah,
Skin in the
yeah.
game, that's what,
Congestion,
you know,
Congestion,
that's gonna
yes.
happen.
'cause that's a big problem, especially on weekends, Saturdays to the transfer station.
Yeah.
It's a lot of congestion. And I do think that being able to move around with a roundabout would help that.
How
I
about,
wouldn't be afraid to
Also,
come here.
speed on Main Street with a
People
roundabout.
avoid it. Mike
helps
avoids it.
reduce the speed. When
Yeah.
you're coming
I
to a
avoid it.
roundabout, when it's properly signed
You
and
get through there,
marked,
easier, you're gonna get more.
you have to slow
cars
down.
going to the business.
versus if you have a green light, you don't.
no, yeah,
That's a
fly.
big concern.
what about fire safety?
I wanted to talk
I
about
would
that
say it'd be
too.
easier, be better
Yeah.
for fire safety, because there'd be
They're moving.
congestion there.
Yeah.
They're moving.
And I do think you ought to, we really should check in with John Roche too, or the veteran
Oh, absolutely.
volunteers and see what thoughts they have about this. But another thought I had here is, you want to talk about future development. You
Yeah.
brought that up.
You should tell
Right.
him.
It's online.
Mike,
stuff is
oh,
on
I'm
there.
sorry,
I know.
sorry, Mike. We were talking about our projections and our future in terms of potentially having a safety complex here. I mean, that's something we think we should include that. Or,
Yeah, you can do that, but if you look at Jeff's study here, I mean, there's a vision all in here,
Yeah.
the original corridor study. I mean,
Some
that
wording in here.
supports almost exactly what you're looking for anyway, but.
right.
Village, yeah.
Yeah, sure. That's something you can put in there. The future safety complex would be in this area, but
That's what I
I
sent on
put a
email.
walkable community, I would put
Yeah.
also walkable community safe, heart healthy.
Yeah.
Because we really do have those signs, and we started off by encouraging the seniors, so that at that time the seniors were doing a walking. A number of them who were like
Right.
just retired, they were doing a walking thing, but then they couldn't cross, they couldn't do these things, and
Yeah.
transfer failed.
Yeah, I applied for funding for the sidewalk project for going down 83 also, but it didn't make it.
Yeah, I remember
So-
that.
But with a vision like this and a project that's moving, it's more
Yeah.
likely to get points for a pedestrian
Mhm.
corridor study
Yeah.
if you have incorporated. It's not all incorporated into one project, but like Jonathan was saying, you get points. Like, all right, this project's, let's say, $3 million, but to do sidewalks all the way down to Gulf, there's another $500,000. Well, there's a pool of money over here for just pedestrian
Yeah.
that we
Bike
might be able to
lanes.
get the $500,000 for if we have this project going as well. So they kind of all work together.
Yeah, because we have tried it through steep a few times.
Yeah.
And those are gone now, right? There's no more
No,
steep
not
no
right
more
now,
steep
yeah.
grants
There are
right
no
now.
more steep.
No more. But
They
that's
could
how
come
we were
back,
doing
they
it.
could come back.
Maybe that would be nice.
But I think with our letter, and with these two guys going back and talking to their supervisors, just kind of keeping it fresh in everybody's mind would be
Yeah.
the way to do it.
Well, we'll get it off dead center. So
If we gotta set up another meeting, we'll set up another
after we
meeting.
leave here, think about this and
Yeah.
give me your comments, and I'll put this together in a
Yeah.
cogent, sellable vision presentation to them.
Yeah.
And we'll get their input and say, emphasize this or de-emphasize that.
Yeah, Mike is right, there is probably a lot of stuff
I-
in
Well,
here that you could
can
use.
almost say to them that this is
Mhm.
not anything new. We've been asking for something like this
Yeah.
for 20 years.
20 years.
And our vision is similar to the vision that was given to you then, and here it is. Because
Yeah.
it's here.
It's nothing new
One
at
of the
all.
things, and you want
And
to
you
talk
can
about
update
what
it.
impedes
Right.
us. He said that,
Yeah.
somehow we should include that. And, you just brought something to my mind. Mike, 20 years ago, when that was happening and Tom Maziarz was involved, we had open meetings downstairs with all the maps, and anyone from the community could go in, learn what was happening, and then you get a sense of what they want, and it was very much, we wanted them to fix 190 and that corridor, and that's why the pork chop was brought in. I don't like that as much. I know you're straightening the way out. Well, they
Option
call
one-
that-
Option one, pork chop.
Yeah, they called it, they were straightening out, going up and down, but you had a crosswalk, and I didn't like that at all. But I think we should
Yeah,
do
that's
that.
Oh, yeah.
option 3 rather. I don't like it either.
I don't like it.
Well, I don't like the fact that option 1 and option 3 rely on traffic lights. Now, I understand geometrically in many cases a roundabout won't be a good fit. I do think it is here, particularly if we
Yeah, but
acquire this
25
piece
foot-
of property
yeah.
and they can
Fits.
realign it.
Absolutely,
It
and
fits.
isn't that road 25 feet wide?
Oh, it's more than that.
More than
Oh,
that,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Probably 40, 50 people.
I
So
think the
we have
roundabout's the
enough
best
to,
solution.
if you break out that building,
Yeah.
you can make it a
Acquired all
really
of
safe,
this.
yeah.
And
And-
it's more, and it's better for pedestrians.
This-
And
Yeah.
But if you open up to the
village, give you
public,
village.
and you talk
Yeah.
about letting them come in and see what's on, they have a right for feedback, but this
Yeah.
is better than just having a tape going where they don't get to see
oh,
everything.
absolutely, we want an interactive meeting
Yeah.
and get people's input on it.
I think it's important, I don't know how important you guys think it is, but there are some weekends where it draws more than the traffic. We take Four Town Fair weekend, you take the Bowers
Bowers.
Tournament.
'Cause 4
It
things
really
are happening.
impedes the residents from doing what they need to do on the weekend, and yet you don't want to discourage those events from happening, but that would really ameliorate a lot of the problem if we could fix that
Yeah,
intersection.
this plan here shows a 100-foot diameter on this traffic roundabout. The one in Ellington's 110 feet.
Yeah.
The one I drew on my wall in my office is I drew it basically the same as Ellington.
110?
5 corners, 110.
Okay.
So it varies, like with
Right.
less traffic, you can go down to 90 or so, mini roundabout type things.
I think we have-
110 seems to work in Ellington. to
I
me.
know.
So, Jeff
But
and
we
Todd,
have more traffic than that Ellington.
I don't know if you add up all the I don't know. what it
I think
is.
it'd be perfect if you could do
I
it
think
that
Main
way.
Street, the last quarter study they did is 16,000 cars a day.
I can
not
find
at
out what it
83,
is.
but,
Henny
yeah.
Penny did the traffic study,
Oh.
so they got the latest numbers.
yeah, we ought to get that.
Yeah, I'll keep that.
DOT keeps those maps. I mean, they do them every 3 or 4 years. And they're available.
Yeah. But I think the more traffic, the better off you are with a roundabout.
I agree.
You know?
Keep everything moving.
Yeah, they projected
Safer.
25,000 cars, I think, in 2025, but I don't know what the current numbers are. But both you gentlemen are in favor of a roundabout?
Absolutely.
I am.
Okay.
Gotta pass it by
Granite
John
curb,
Roach,
things
too.
like that, we'd have to
Yeah.
talk about. I'm not too,
And the police.
I'm not a big fan of it necessarily because of the maintenance aspect of it. Asphalt is pretty easy to maintain,
yeah.
and it's a lot more costly than an asphalt curb.
He was talking more of the village.
Right, you're talking West Hartford's
Visual
in the
aspects.
visual aspect of a
We don't
very
want any
nice curb.
cobblestone road or anything like that. We
We're,
want pavement.
we're not looking for
curbing.
that.
I don't think the curbs are, I think they add to more confusion and distress.
Hmm.
Sometimes, like in historical areas, they say,
Yeah.
"Oh, you want the real brick. You want to make
Yeah.
it look like a." Well,
No.
they stopped using the brick back in the day because
It's a maintenance
reason.
nightmare.
Well,
you're
try
better
to-
off with the
try to
concrete.
plow.
You know.
If it is Mark says, one and done, put the thing in.
But I think
worry
even,
about it,
I don't like the
reduce
curbs in
maintenance, right?
Hebron, on Hebron
No,
Avenue.
They got granite curbs.
Granite curbs, I don't really like them.
Tire
It
covers.
takes the project a long time. I was through there when you're constructing
Yeah.
it. You got to form it up. You got to pour concrete. You got to set the. That's
Mm.
what adds to the cost. A concrete curb is going to be $200 a foot, where a bituminous curb is going to be $2 a foot.
Right.
So
I
Okay,
would go
uh,
with the least expensive.
And
show
they're
them-
mountable. I mean,
We're not
particularly in a
looking
roundabout,
to-
you do a mountable curb out of asphalt, and it's kind of a no-brainer.
you can make the center island where the tractor trailer's rear
Well, you
end
could do
goes
the
up on it. You
cobblestone
can do
or
some
paint,
brick
yeah.
work there.
Okay, to sum up, so you'll come back to me with your
Right.
points. I've got about 20 items here.
Yeah, I'll get the traffic study
Yeah.
information and start putting your letter together, and then we can meet
Yeah.
again and see.
You should read the original.
I have. I read the whole
Yeah,
thing.
you got that? Okay.
And
I
it's
think
read
online.
the
I-
whole thing.
I think
It's
I
online
still
also,
have
the
that
whole
from
thing.
when I
Yeah.
first became a selectman.
Yeah.
I didn't throw it away.
Mike, as I said before you came in here, these reports have been sitting on the shelf and nobody's done anything with them. Same thing with the zoning, same thing with the POCD.
Well,
Yeah.
but you know another reason why? Because
It's a state
we've
road.
been denied 3 times. We wanted this to be the
Applied for that.
priority,
Yeah.
and they chose Gulf Road, they chose Somersville,
Hmm.
but they never really hit this, and then they delayed us 10 years. So,
Well,
you know, we've tried the best we can, but
Congestion
maybe
is
now
only
we just have
moderate,
to
but
get a little
someday it's
stronger.
expected to become serious.
Yeah.
It is
20 years
now.
later,
Right.
it is serious.
Yes.
actually, I'm going to quote from that.
Yeah, sure.
We're not bashful about pushing this, so I intend to be pretty aggressive.
I think it sounded like with the state, if the town was willing to put in something,
Yeah,
I think it's right.
I think
it's the
that would show
squeaky-
them
It's
we're
the
serious.
squeaky wheel deal.
Up to now, it's applying for money and getting turned down,
Right.
and it's sitting there, so.
I do think we have to really seriously pursue acquiring that property, because as Mike was alluding to,
Yeah.
if the town owns the property, the historic if it has to be part of their project, it has to go through their historic commission, which is gonna delay the project, and they won't acquire it out, and
No, I
somebody else
understand.
might.
We
I
can
think,
put the bean out there.
Yeah.
but if we acquire the property, then we have control of
Among
what
the
happens in the
flowers and
future,
the-
versus letting fate
Yeah, I
intervene.
think, I think that was pretty well established. but
There's options.
Mike and I will talk about the possibility with the Board of Selectmen of acquiring it, or, go through the process and get estimates, and we'll evaluate it.
What about getting an appraisal?
Well, we already
We'd
have
have
the,
to,
well, we'll have to get 3 appraisals, but
Yeah.
we already have an indication as to what somebody wants for it, whether it's realistic or not. That's.
You mean the one that's on, they're advertising?
Yeah,
Yeah, that seems a little hot.
yeah. But that's why you get an appraisal, take the average of
But
those.
if someone has a small business or something like that, I guess you get a lot of traffic
See-
at the
see,
intersection there,
the
but it's not
point
that
is-
much area.
The
you know,
point
building's
is,
not in
parking
great
and
shape
everything.
either.
the point is you can acquire that property, and you still have the problem with the intersection.
Yeah,
Where, and then you got setbacks, and how much of that property can be developed, and what it'll be developed for, and what about parking?
You know, CVS wanted to develop it, and they needed 7 variances, which were turned down, so that was a CVS.
Okay.
Maybe some other type of business would want to go in there, but I hate to see someone purchase it, and then we gotta get it from them,
right.
Anything else we need to discuss?
No. Want to adjourn?
Yeah.
Move to adjourn.
Second that, all in favor?
Aye.
Wait a second, we're on.
I got that.